Rain hammered Daniel Mercer's office, drumming a relentless rhythm on the old glass and echoing through the empty halls. The storm outside was more than just weather. It was a warning, a challenge, and a test of resolve. A Louisiana deluge that rattled nerves and windows alike, turning the city into a blur of water and shadow. The streets outside were deserted, as if the whole world was holding its breath. Mercer stared out, tie loosened, anxiety twisting in his gut. He could feel the weight of the coming confrontation pressing down on him, heavier than the storm itself. In an hour, he'd face Riverfield Petroleum's legal team in their New Orleans tower. A small-town lawyer against corporate titans, outnumbered and outgunned, but not outmatched in spirit. He thought of his clients, fishermen, shop owners, families with sick children, all desperate for help, all counting on him to stand up when no one else would. The big city lawyers had refused this fight. Mercer couldn't. He knew what was at stake, and he knew he was their last hope. He straightened his tie, grabbed his battered briefcase, and stepped into the storm, heart pounding but resolve unshaken. The rain soaked him instantly, but he barely noticed. Each step forward was a promise to those who depended on him. He was walking into a battle he couldn't afford to lose. Every drop of rain a reminder of what he was fighting for. The fight for St. Benoit Parish started now, with him. The hopes of an entire community rested on his shoulders. He just hoped the storm wasn't a sign of what was to come, but whatever waited on the other side, Daniel Mercer was ready to face it. St. Benoit Parish was once idyllic, bayous, mossy oaks, and a close-knit community. Then Riverfield Petroleum arrived, promising prosperity but delivering poison. The refinery dumped chemicals into the water, sickening the land and its people. Fish died, the air burned, and illnesses spread. Rashes, cancers, birth defects. Fear kept the town silent. Riverfield was too powerful. Mercer's office became a refuge for the desperate. Residents brought cloudy water, medical bills, and stories of loss. Proving Riverfield's guilt would take evidence and courage. The company denied everything, painting the victims as opportunists. Mercer knew he was up against a wall of lies, but he saw the truth in his neighbor's eyes. He had to find a crack before the whole town was lost. Mercer's office became a war room, maps, charts, and late nights fueled by outrage. Riverfield buried him in paperwork, trying to break his will. He was isolated, shunned by colleagues and friends. Then Maria Delgado arrived, a former Riverfield secretary with a trove of hidden documents. Her evidence was a breakthrough, but it cost her dearly. Maria was killed in a hit-and-run, a warning Mercer couldn't ignore. Grief turned to resolve. They wanted him silent, but Maria's courage fueled his fight. Mercer vowed her death wouldn't be in vain. The battle was now personal. He was ready to burn Riverfield's kingdom to the ground. After Maria's death, the threats escalated. Slashed tires, dead birds, and late-night calls. The message was clear. Someone wanted Mercer to stop digging, to abandon the fight for justice. But each act of intimidation only fueled his determination. Fear was constant, a shadow that followed Mercer everywhere. Yet despite the anxiety and sleepless nights, he pressed on, refusing to let fear dictate his actions. He knew he needed a witness, someone who could confirm what he suspected. That's when he found Clarence Boone, a former plant supervisor who had retreated into the swamps, haunted by what he'd seen. Clarence had witnessed the cover-ups firsthand and paid a heavy price for daring to speak out. Isolated and wary, he had lost almost everything. Mercer slowly earned his trust, sharing stories of Maria and the sick children, showing Clarence he wasn't alone in his fight. Moved by Mercer's resolve, Clarence agreed to testify, fully aware that he was risking everything, his safety, his future, even his life, for a chance at justice. Together, they gathered evidence, sneaking onto Riverfield's property under the cover of darkness, collecting soil and water samples that could prove the company's guilt. Every step was dangerous. Riverfield had already shown what they were capable of. The threat of violence was real, and the fear never left them. This was the price of truth, risking lives to expose a crime. Mercer knew the stakes, but he also knew what was at stake for the community. With Clarence's testimony and the evidence they'd gathered, Mercer finally had a fighting chance to bring Riverfield to justice. The case was ready for court, and for the first time, hope felt real. The courtroom was thick with tension. Mercer, Clarence, and the townspeople sat together, united by hope and fear, their faces etched with anticipation and worry. Across the aisle, Riverfield's army of lawyers sat in crisp suits exuding confidence and power, determined to protect their company at any cost. Riverfield's legal team attacked with every trick in the book, but Mercer kept his arguments clear and honest, letting the victims' stories speak for themselves, their pain and courage echoing through the courtroom. Sensing defeat, the company offered a massive settlement, hush money meant to bury the truth and silence the voices of those who had suffered. Mercer refused, unwavering. For him, the fight was about justice, not a payoff. It was about standing up for what was right, no matter the cost. Finally, the jury found for the plaintiffs, their verdict ringing out like a promise of hope. Relief and tears swept the room, as families embraced and years of fear gave way to a moment of justice. Riverfield was ordered to pay damages and held publicly accountable for their actions, a rare victory against a giant. But the battle wasn't over. Riverfield immediately appealed, their PR machine spinning stories, and the plant continued to operate as if nothing had changed. Outside, protesters and activists gathered, determined to keep the pressure on and demand real change for St. Benoit. Mercer knew he was marked, his life forever changed by the fight, the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. But when he looked at the children of St. Benoit, playing and laughing, he knew he had no regrets. Justice, he realized, was a marathon, not a sprint, a long, grueling journey that demanded endurance and heart. And Mercer, fueled by hope and conviction, was prepared to keep running, no matter how long the road ahead.